The ATM spat out a receipt that felt like a joke. Balance $0. I tried again, slower this time, like courtesy might change machine's mind. Same message, same punch in the chest. My fingers, steady from 4 decades on the line at the plant, suddenly didn't know where to rest. Then my phone buzzed on the console with a text from my 15-year-old grandson, Noah. Don't worry, Grandpa. I've got you. Before I explain why that message mattered, please subscribe to the channel, hit like, and tell me in the comments what time it is where you're listening right now. It helps more than you know. I walked into the bank breathing, like a man who'd just run up a hill. The carpet smelled the same as always, coffee and lemon cleaner, Tuesday afternoon, and decent people doing small math. Linda, she's been behind that window since Clinton was in office, smiled like she always does. Afternoon, Mr. Palmer. What can I do for you? The machine says I'm broke, I said, sliding my card across. But I checked last week. I should have $12,000 in change in savings and a little more in checking. Her fingers danced on the keys, then slowed, then stopped. The smile slid off like a magnet taken for metal. Let me okay. I see a withdrawal this morning at 9:18 a.m. for the full balance of both accounts. By who? My voice sounded like it belonged to a different man. It lists a joint owner, Amanda Bennett. She turned the screen toward me. My daughter's married name. My daughter's authorization. My life, emptied with my blessing from 3 years ago when her divorce got ugly and I added her just in case. The numbers blurred. For a second, I saw the day I'd sign the form, me telling the banker, if anything happens to me, my girl can keep the lights on. I hadn't meant lights like Vegas marquees. I meant the porch lamp on our small house, the kind of light you can trust. It's legal. I asked. Yes, sir, Linda said softly. I'm sorry. Outside, the sun looked too bright, like a stage light angled to show every wrinkle in a face. I sat in my Chevy and called Amanda. Straight to voicemail. I called again. On the 6th ring, she answered. Dad, I can't talk long. You took everything. It's my turn, she said, her voice hard and shiny. Kyle and I are starting over. We'll pay you back. Kyle. I pictured the man with the gold watch and the soft handshake. You took my retirement to start over with a stranger. He's not a stranger to me. And Noah will be fine. The line clicked dead. I stared at the phone as if it might explain the kind of arithmetic where love equals 0. The park was 4 blocks away, so I drove there without deciding to. I sat on the bench by the pond and watched mallards trace lazy figure eights while a little girl tossed crumbs and squealed. Once upon a time, Amanda had done the same on this very shore, her small hand in mine, telling me not to throw big pieces because the babies couldn't manage it. Back then, my world was 3 things: her laugh, my shift schedule, and a future I planned to pay for in cash and patience. I thought about the night she brought Kyle to dinner, black leather jacket in January, tattoo creeping up his neck like ivy that had found a soft wall. He complimented my house and asked casual questions that weren't casual, own outright. Decent pension from the auto plant? Just curious, he said, eyes cataloging my living room like a store he planned to visit after dark. Later, my neighbor Tom, who's a cop and can spot trouble from 2 blocks out, shook his head. Keep that one out of your accounts, Walt. I told myself I was being judgmental. I chose quiet to keep the peace. Silence, I've learned, can be the loudest permission. When the breeze got cold, I drove home. The house smelled like laundry soap and coffee. Noah's backpack leaned against the hall table. His chessboard waited on the counter from last night's lesson, pieces mid-battle, my bishop pinned, and pretending it wasn't. I practiced the sentence I needed to say and hated the taste of it. Noah, I called, we need to talk. He stepped into the doorway, suddenly taller than last month, hair still damp from a shower, gray t-shirt with a high school logo. He took one look at my face, and his expression changed from playful to focused, like a dimmer sliding down. What happened? We sat on the couch. I told him the facts the way a man reads a service manual. The ATM, the teller, the name on the screen, the call that ended with a click. He didn't flinch. He listened like he plays chess, quiet, counting angles, seeing boards inside boards. When I finished, the room settled into that strange, soft silence between lightning and thunder. We'll be okay, he said finally, voice steady. It wasn't the bravado of a teenager. It was something older. I have $40 until the pension hits, I said, opening my wallet for proof I didn't need to show. Groceries are thin. The truck needs brakes. And your mother. He raised a hand gently. Grandpa, eat first. Bad news sounds smaller after eggs. So I scrambled for and burned the toast while he set the table, like a young man who has decided not to let the world tip over. We ate. We didn't say much. After, I spread folders across the coffee table, statements, receipts, a thin stack of certificates I'd collected like insurance against weather. Paper is weightless until it's all you've got. Here are the new rules, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. No keys left in sight. Doors locked even when we're home. No one stays here unless we both say yes. And we tell each other the truth the first time. He nodded, eyes clear. Deal. I slid the chessboard between us and reset the pieces. Routine steadies a man. We played in near silence with clicking on wood, the old rhythm finding us like a song remembered without trying. He trapped my queen with a knight I didn't see coming and looked properly sorry about it. Twice my phone rang from a number I didn't know. I let it ring. Some calls can wait their turn. When the board was a graveyard and I'd surrendered with dignity, Noah closed the lid. He studied me the way he studies endgames, patient, serious, more grown than his age earns. "Grandpa," he said, careful and calm, "there's something I need to show you." My heart did a small, stubborn kick. A grandfather learns to hear the weight in a sentence. This one carried more than sound. "What is it?" I asked. He walked to his backpack and unzipped it like he'd rehearsed the motion. He didn't look dramatic. He looked prepared. He reached inside, then paused, eyes on mine. "I've been paying attention," he said. That was all. No promises. No speeches. Just 5 words that settled the house back onto its foundation. The porch light flickered on with the evening. Somewhere down the block, a neighbor's dog barked as if to mark the hour. Noah's hand disappeared into the bag, and I realized I was breathing easier for the first time since the machine had called me poor. Whatever he had, whatever he knew, we would face it together. 2 Palmers at a kitchen table that had seen birthdays, bills, and quiet victories, and for tonight that was enough. Noah pulled a thick folder from his backpack and laid it on the coffee table between the chessboard and my old pension statements. He opened it slowly, deliberately, like a detective about to reveal evidence, not a 15-year-old kid who should be worrying about homework and basketball practice. I leaned forward, my elbows on my knees, bracing myself. He slid the first page toward me. It was a printed photo, black and white, with the words wanted across the top. The face staring back at me was one I recognized immediately. Kyle, the man my daughter Amanda had sworn was her chance at a fresh start. My mouth went dry. Noah tapped the caption beneath the picture. "Grandpa, this isn't just a bad boyfriend. He's wanted for armed robbery in 2 states." The air in the room seemed to thicken. My heart hammered with a rhythm I hadn't felt since my last day at the plant, when the machines clanged louder than usual, and I'd wondered if I could still handle the pace. "Where did you find this?" I asked. My voice sounded calm, but my palms were damp. "On the police department website," he said matter-of-factly. I couldn't sleep Monday night after I heard them talking. I went downstairs for water, and I heard Mom and Kyle planning something. I knew it was about money. I stayed by the hall until I heard them say they'd clear out the accounts first thing Tuesday morning. So I started digging. He flipped to the next page, a map printed from Google, a red circle drawn around an apartment complex in Columbus. They said an address. I wrote it down, double-checked it online. "This is where they're hiding." He said it like a soldier presenting coordinates. I stared at the neat handwriting, the careful notes, the highlighted sections. My grandson had turned into an investigator while I sat in shock at the ATM. The shame burned worse than the anger. "You knew before she left?" I asked softly. "You knew what she planned?" He nodded. I heard enough to understand. "But Grandpa, if I told you right away, you'd have tried to stop her. You'd have begged her to stay, maybe even given her more money just to keep her close. That's what you always do with Mom, and she would have drained you again later. I couldn't let that happen." He slid another sheet toward me. A confirmation number from a police tip line. "I called this morning before school. Told them Kyle was a wanted fugitive, gave them the address, described their car, everything. They said they'd send someone right away." My hands shook as I picked up the paper. 15 years old, and my grandson had taken a kind of action I'd been too blind or too loyal to take. He'd chosen to protect me instead of waiting for me to protect him. I wanted to praise him, but my throat closed tight with a mix of pride and grief. Pride that he'd seen so clearly, grief that he'd been forced to grow up faster than any child should. "Noah," I whispered, "you shouldn't have had to do this alone." He looked at me steadily. "Grandpa, I've watched you carry everything for years. Mom takes, you give. I didn't want to see her break you too. His words hit me harder than any blow from a hammer in the plant ever had. I thought I'd been shielding him from the ugliness of family betrayal, but he'd seen it all, cataloged it like chess moves, and acted when I couldn't. The phone rang then, shrill in the quiet room. The screen lit up with Amanda's number. I froze, the phone vibrating in my hand. "Answer it," Noah said quietly. "You need to hear what she'll say now." I pressed the green button and held it to my ear. Amanda's voice poured out, sharp and frantic. "Dad, how could you?" "The police just stormed in. They took Kyle. They took everything. How did they know?" Her voice cracked into a scream. "You called them, didn't you?" I could feel Noah's eyes on me. I couldn't tell her the truth, that it was her own son who'd saved us both. So I took the weight. "Yes," I said firmly. "I called." Silence hummed across the line for a beat, then she exploded. "You betrayed me. I'm your daughter. You ruined everything." Her words were a storm, each one meant to tear through the thin wall of resolve I was trying to build. My grip on the phone tightened. "Amanda," I said evenly, "you stole every cent I had. You ran off with a criminal. You left your son. That's not betrayal from me, that's betrayal from you." For the first time, she hesitated. I thought I heard her sniffle, but then her tone shifted back to venom. "This isn't over. You'll regret this." The line went dead. I lowered the phone, staring at it like it might explode in my hand. Noah's voice broke the silence. "She's wrong. It is over. At least with him. And we'll be okay, Grandpa. You and me." I set the phone down and pulled him into a hug. For a moment, I wasn't sure who was holding up whom. The boy I'd raised was no longer just my grandson. He was my shield. The living room was quiet except for the ticking of the grandfather clock, each second pounding into me like a drumbeat reminding me how much had changed. I stared at Noah, at the boy who had somehow become the one holding us together, and I felt both gratitude and guilt tearing me apart. He should have been worrying about algebra homework or whether his favorite baseball team won last night, not plotting how to outmaneuver his own mother and her criminal boyfriend. But he had done it, and because of him, I still had a roof over my head, food in the pantry, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could come out of this stronger. I leaned back in my chair and rubbed my temples. "You did what I should have done years ago," I admitted quietly. "You protected the family." I kept telling myself Amanda would change, that she'd find her way back to being that little girl who used to hold my hand in the park. But all I did was keep letting her hurt us. "You were braver than I was." Noah sat straighter, his young face set in determination, but there was something else in his eyes too, relief that I had finally spoken the truth out loud. He reached for the chessboard, moving the pawns back into their starting positions. "Grandpa, you don't have to feel guilty," he said softly. "You raised me. You gave Mom chance after chance. You believed in her because you're a good man. But I've seen who she really is, and I couldn't let her destroy you." He pushed a pawn forward and looked up at me with a half-smile. "Your move." I reached across the board, my hand steady for the first time all day. The pieces clicked against the wooden squares, and for a few minutes we lost ourselves in the rhythm of the game. It felt almost normal, the way it used to be before betrayal had knocked the breath out of me. But the phone call lingered in my mind like a storm cloud, Amanda's voice echoing, "This isn't over." When the game ended, Noah won of course, I stood and walked to mantel. Family photos lined it, silent witnesses to decades of struggle and love. My eyes landed on one picture, Amanda at her high school graduation, her smile so wide it nearly split her face, her cap slightly askew, her eyes filled with hope. I remembered sitting in that gymnasium, bursting with pride, certain that she would conquer the world. Now that same girl was hiding somewhere, furious at me for not letting her bleed me dry, furious at her son for existing as a reminder of responsibility she never wanted. The weight of it pressed on me, but Noah's voice pulled me back. "Grandpa, there's more you should know." He reached into his backpack again and pulled out a smaller folder, thinner but no less organized. I made copies of everything before I called the police. Just in case. He laid down printouts of bank records, screenshots of text messages between Amanda and Kyle that he'd overheard and managed to capture using her unattended phone. My eyes widened. "How on earth did you?" She left her phone on the kitchen table when she went outside to smoke. "I knew her password. She never changes it. I took pictures of everything with my tablet. If she tries to deny what she did, we have proof." I stared at my grandson in awe and disbelief. 15 years old, but already thinking like a lawyer, a detective, a man twice his age. Noah, I said, my throat tightening, you've done more for this family in 2 days than I managed in years. But I hate that you had to. He shrugged, but I could see the sadness flicker across his face. I hate it too. But I wasn't going to sit back and watch her hurt you anymore. She made her choices. I made mine. We sat in silence for a while, the folder between us like a record of everything Amanda had destroyed. The evening light filtered through the curtains, warm and golden, but I felt a chill settle in my bones. Grandpa! Noah's voice was tentative now. What happens if she comes back? The question hung heavy in the air. I pictured her at the door, her eyes full of excuses and manipulations, her hands outstretched for more money, more chances, more pieces of me. I swallowed hard. If she comes back, we'll deal with it. But this time, it'll be different. I won't let her walk over me again. And I won't let her hurt you. Noah nodded slowly, as if testing whether he could believe me. Finally, he gave a small smile. I think you mean it this time. Later that night, after Noah had gone to bed, I sat alone in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee gone cold. The house was quiet, but my mind was loud with memories. I remembered Amanda as a child, running barefoot through the grass, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. I remembered teaching her to ride a bike, how she fell and scraped her knee, how she cried until I told her she was the bravest girl in the world. I remembered the father-daughter dance at her wedding, the way she whispered, "Thanks for always being there, Dad," into my ear. Where had that daughter gone? At what point had she become someone who could steal from her own father and abandon her own son without a second thought? The floor creaked behind me. I turned to see Noah standing in the doorway, his hair mussed from sleep, his eyes heavy but sharp. "Couldn't sleep," he muttered, sliding into the chair across from me. "Me neither," I admitted. We sat in silence for a long moment before he spoke again. "Do you think she'll ever come back different? Not the mom she is now, but the mom she's supposed to be." I stared into my coffee, the steam long gone, the surface still. "I don't know, son. People can change, but they have to want to. And your mom, I don't know if she ever will." Noah's eyes shimmered in the dim kitchen light. "If she does, will you forgive her?" The question stabbed deep. I thought about all the times I had forgiven her already, all the chances I had given, all the money, all the excuses. I thought about what it had cost me, what it had cost him. I reached across the table and took his hand. "I'll forgive her if she truly changes. But I'll never let her hurt us again." For the first time all day, I saw something in his expression ease. He nodded slowly, then squeezed my hand back. "That's enough for me." When he went back upstairs, I sat alone again, but I didn't feel quite as hollow. For the first time in years, I had drawn a line. Maybe too late, maybe after too much damage, but it was there. And beside me in this house was a grandson who was stronger, wiser, and braver than I had ever realized. The phone rang again just before midnight. I stared at it, my heart pounding. Amanda's number glowed on the screen. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. My hand hovered over the receiver. I didn't know whether I had the strength to hear her voice again. But before I could decide, Noah's bedroom door creaked open upstairs. He called down softly, steady, certain, "Answer, Grandpa. It's time we both heard what she has to say." The phone kept ringing in the darkness, its shrill cry cutting through the silence of the house like a blade. I stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, staring at the glowing screen that displayed Amanda's name. My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat louder than the last, until Noah's voice came down from the staircase again, firm, steady, more resolute than I'd ever heard him. "Answer it, Grandpa. We need to know what she wants." His words carried no hesitation. He had been brave enough to face the truth already, brave enough to call the police when I couldn't. If my grandson could be that strong, then I had no excuse. I reached out and picked up the receiver, my hand trembling slightly, the weight of 3 decades of fatherhood pressing down on me. "Dad," Amanda's voice cracked through the line, sharp and ragged, the sound of someone who had been crying but still carried a knife behind her tears. "How could you do this to me?" Her words came fast, like bullets, full of accusation. The police knew everything. They had the address, the car, the money. They took Kyle, and they took me in for questioning. "I'm out now, but I lost everything because of you. How could you betray your own daughter?" I closed my eyes, forcing myself to breathe before answering. "You betrayed us first, Amanda. You stole my life savings. You took Noah's future. You ran off with a criminal who used you for money. I didn't betray you. I protected this family. I could feel Noah standing in the hall now, his presence solid and steady, listening to every word. Amanda's voice rose, full of fury. Protecting the family? Don't you dare twist this around. You've always cared more about money than me. That's all this was about, your precious nest egg, your retirement. You were never there for me, Dad. Not when I needed you. You chose your job, your pride, your bank account. And now you're choosing Noah over me. The accusation stung, but I refused to let her rewrite the story. I chose you every time you needed me. I paid your rent when you couldn't. I bought food for you when you had none. I covered the bills, the lawyers, the clothes for Noah, the school fees. Every time you fell, I picked you back up. Don't you dare tell me I didn't choose you. I've been choosing you for 35 years. My voice cracked with anger, years of repressed frustration finally spilling free. For a moment, silence hung heavy on the line. Then Amanda laughed bitterly, a sound that chilled me to the bone. You think you're some kind of saint. You're not. You only helped because you wanted control. You wanted to keep me dependent on you, wanted me to beg so you could feel important. You don't care about me. You care about being the hero. Well, congratulations, Dad. You ruined my life. Before I could reply, Noah stepped forward into the kitchen, his face pale but resolute. He motioned for the receiver. For a second, I hesitated, unsure if it was right for him to confront his mother. But his eyes locked on mine, full of a strength I couldn't deny. I handed him the phone. Mom, Noah's voice was clear, steady, older than his years. Stop lying. Stop blaming Grandpa. You left us. You stole from us. You chose Kyle over your own son. That wasn't Grandpa's choice, that was yours. His words sliced through the tension, raw and direct. Amanda's voice faltered on the line. Noah, honey, you don't understand. No, Mom. I understand perfectly. I heard you and Kyle planning everything Monday night. I heard you laugh about how easy it would be to take Grandpa's money. I heard you say I'd get over it. You didn't care about me, Mom. You cared about money. You cared about him. And now you're angry because you lost. His voice shook slightly at the end, but he didn't back down. Silence filled the line again. Then Amanda whispered, You called the police? Noah's grip on the phone tightened. Yes, I did. Because I wasn't going to let you hurt us anymore. Because Grandpa deserved better. Because I deserve better. His words were fierce now, burning with the truth of a child who had grown up too fast. The sound that came through the phone next was like nothing I'd ever heard from my daughter before. A low, broken sob that carried both rage and despair. You ruined everything, she cried. Both of you. You'll regret this. You'll see. Then the line went dead. Noah set the receiver down carefully, his face pale but calm. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The weight of what had just happened pressed on us like a storm cloud. Finally, I reached out and pulled him into my arms, holding him tight. I'm sorry you had to do that, son, I whispered. I'm sorry you had to be the strong one when it should have been me. He hugged me back fiercely. I'm not sorry, Grandpa. We're free now. She can't hurt us anymore. The days that followed felt strange, like walking through the aftermath of a hurricane. The house stood the same, the furniture hadn't moved, the photographs still lined the mantel, but everything inside me had shifted. Amanda was gone, not just physically, but in every way that mattered. She had chosen her path, and Noah and I had chosen ours. Neighbors asked questions when they heard about Kyle's arrest, when whispers about Amanda's involvement spread through town. I kept my answers short, polite, never airing all the details. She's not with us anymore, I'd say. And people would nod with that mix of pity and judgment only small towns can deliver. But at home, behind closed doors, Noah and I found something we hadn't had in years: peace. He started his summer job mowing lawns, coming home sweaty and proud, handing me small envelopes of cash. He insisted on contributing to groceries. I cooked meals in the kitchen without Amanda barging in to announce another crisis. We played chess at night, and I started losing again, not because I was distracted, but because Noah was genuinely becoming better than me. And in those moments, I realized I hadn't just lost a daughter. I had gained something else entirely, a partner, an ally, a young man who had chosen family and responsibility when his own mother had chosen betrayal. Still, late at night, I sometimes found myself staring at Amanda's photographs, wondering if she would ever change, if she would ever come back different. But then I'd hear Noah's footsteps in the hallway, steady and strong, and I knew I couldn't let myself drown in those questions anymore. The future wasn't about Amanda anymore, it was about him. One evening, As we sat on the porch watching the sun dip behind the trees, Noah turned to me. "Grandpa, do you think we'll be okay?" "Just us." I looked at him, at the boy who had become a man far too soon, and I nodded. "More than okay. We'll build something strong. Something honest. Something she can't touch." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world, and it helps us keep telling these powerful true stories that matter.